Lovely, Associate Professor and Head of the Department of Physiology, Moinamoti Medical College, Kumilla. Today we will start new item 4, that is respiratory centers. Today we will start new item, respiratory centers. See here, contents of item 4. Respiratory centers means item 4. So now, please see, listen to me, contents of item 4. Tanjimul present. Tanjimul Haq.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Present. Roll 12. Israt Jahan present. Roll 12.
जी मैम अस्सलाम वालेकुम मैम
Assalam. Roll 34. Mehnaz Mushtari present. Roll 34. Mehnaz Mushtari present or not? Roll 34. Roll 40. Khadija Akhtar present or not? Roll 40. Roll 48. Saima. Roll 48. Saima.
I'm present.
Present. Roll 52. Ripa Roy Falguni.
Yes,
Roll
ma'am, present.
Present. Roll 24. Naba Chaudhuri. Roll 24. Roll 28. Jarin Tasnim. Present or absent. Roll 28. Jarin. Roll 55. Anisul Haq Chaudhuri.
Yes, ma'am. Present, ma'am.
Present. Roll 64. Marufa Akhtar Shafi. Roll 64. Roll 72. Sadika. Roll 80. Soyod Mumin Iqbal. Roll 80. Roll 88. Imran Qayyum Khan. Imran Qayyum Khan. Roll 88.
Ma'am, 09064.
64. Marufa Akhtar Shafi. Present.
Ji, ma'am.
Okay.
Ji, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you. Roll 88. Imran Qayyum Khan. Roll 96. Pritha Samanta. Roll 96. Roll 100. Roll 100. Madhupurna Chatterjee. Okay. I'm going to
09081 present, ma'am.
09081. 81. Please tell your name.
Janarthanam.
Janartham. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now I am going to start item 4. First, look at here, contents of item 4. Respiratory centers, name, location, and functions. Remember that we will not review this class. This is the first and last time. We will not review this theoretical class again. After opening your college, we will study only practical class and take your item, card final, that is term final, but not will again repeat this theoretical class. So you have to attend everybody this theoretical class. Please remember this thing. First thing, respiratory centers, name, location, functions. Nervous and chemical regulation of respiration during exercise. Only 3 contents, only 3 topics here, but lot of things you have to study here. First thing, respiratory centers according to textbook 13th edition Guyton and Hall. According to textbook, you have to write down in your exam khata this definition, okay, from your textbook. This is very, very important written question. Define respiratory centers and describe the respiratory centers. This is very important written question. So you have to write down from your textbook this definition. Respiratory centers means the group of neurons located bilaterally in the medulla oblongata and pons of the brain, which regulate respiration rhythmically, are collectively known as respiratory center. Again, I am repeating, the groups of neurons located bilaterally, দুই পাশেই থাকবে, in the medulla oblongata and pons of the brain stem. তাহলে কোথায় থাকে? medulla and pons এ থাকবে, ঠিক আছে? These are the part of brain stem. তাহলে group of neurons located bilaterally in the medulla oblongata and pons of the brain stem which regulate respiration rhythmically. রেসপিরেশনটা কিন্তু একটা রিদম ফ্যাশনে হয়, দ্যাট ইজ 2 second inspiration, 3 second expiration. This is like rhythm, okay? It maintains a rhythm. Rhythmically are called collectively known as respiratory center. So respiratory center means group of neurons located bilaterally in the medulla oblongata and pons of the brain stem which regulate respiration rhythmically are collectively known as respiratory centers. This is the figure of respiratory centers. Now one by one we'll discuss. According to your textbook guidance, respiratory center is divided into 3 major collection of neurons. According to your textbook, only 3 things, 3 major collections of neurons they describe. That is dorsal respiratory group, ventral respiratory group, and pneumatic center. 3 groups of neuron they describe according to your textbook. A dorsal respiratory group located in the dorsal portion of the medulla, which mainly causes inspiration. This is very important thing. Dorsal respiratory group of neurons, they located in the dorsal portion of the medulla and which mainly causes, that is function of dorsal respiratory group of neurons, mainly inspiration. Now, second thing, a ventral respiratory group of neurons located in the ventrolateral part of the medulla, which mainly causes expiration. And the pneumatic center located dorsally in the superior portion of the pons, which mainly controls rate and depth of breathing. This is all about according to your textbook 13th edition, that is latest edition guidance. There are 3 groups of neuron. They maintains respiration: dorsal respiratory group, ventral respiratory group, and pneumatic center. But see the figure from a textbook, figure 42-1, organization of the respiratory center. See here, already I mentioned 3 center: dorsal respiratory group. See here, mainly their function inspiration, dorsal respiratory group. Second thing, ventral respiratory group. They mainly cause expiration, also they can cause inspiration. Then last one, pneumatic center. Pneumatic center, they maintain or regulate the rate and depth of respiration. Another center, see here, there is query mark. There is query mark, question mark. Another center also present. This is apneustic center. Apneustic center, its function is still now not clear to all, okay? That's why there is question mark present, apneustic center. So there are actually 4 centers present. See here, dorsal respiratory group, ventral respiratory group, pneumatic center, and apneustic center. And apneustic center, actually there are 4 center, but according to your textbook they describe only 3 center. But for written exam you have to write down these functions of this and location and function of this 4 center for written exam, and you have to draw this figure. Please try to draw this figure and practice this figure very nicely at your home, because this is very common written question. Define respiratory center and describe the respiratory centers, and you have to draw this figure. This is very easy figure, very much easy figure. Now for written exam, you have to start from here. First you have to write down the definition of respiratory center. Then you have to start from here. First one, dorsal respiratory group. For written exam, you have to start from here. Description of respiratory group, respiratory centers, you have to start from here. Dorsal respiratory group. First you have to write down the location, that is dorsal portion of the medulla. That is dorsal portion of the medulla. Nucleus of the tractus solitarius. Function mainly causes inspiration, when stimulated. That is, whenever this group of neurons stimulated, they cause mainly inspiration. The basic rhythm of respiration is generated mainly in the dorsal respiratory group. According to textbook guide on the basic rhythm, already I have mentioned you that in respiration is a rhythmical pattern or rhythmical fashion it occurs. That is, inspiration 2 seconds and expiration 3 seconds. They maintain a rhythm, and Basic rhythm is generated mainly by dorsal respiratory group of neuron. This is according to your textbook. The basic rhythm of respiration is generated mainly in the dorsal respiratory group of neuron. Okay, you have to remember this thing for MCQ exam. Basic rhythm of respiration is generated mainly in the dorsal respiratory group of neuron. Just like cardiovascular system, already you know very well that in cardiovascular physiology you have studied that pacemaker cell present in the sinoatrial node. Pacemaker cell, that is sinoatrial node, is called pacemaker cell of the cardiovascular system because they generate automatically and rhythmically cardiac impulse. They generate automatically and rhythmically cardiac impulse. Like this way, the basic rhythm of respiration is generated mainly in the dorsal respiratory group. That is pacemaker cell. Pacemaker cell also present in the medulla and within the dorsal respiratory group, which can generate basic rhythm of respiration. Basic rhythm of respiration is generated mainly in the dorsal respiratory group. Okay, so pacemaker tissue or pacemaker cell of respiratory system present in the dorsal respiratory group of neurons according to your textbook. But according to Gannon, they mentioned as another thing, that is pre-Borginger complex. I'll show you later on what is pre-Borginger complex, where it present. Okay, now we are studying according to our textbook. First thing, dorsal respiratory group of neuron. Number 2, ventral respiratory group. Ventral respiratory group location, ventrolateral part of the medulla. Ventrolateral part of the medulla. Location, ventrolateral part of the medulla. Nucleus ambiguous and nucleus retroambiguous. Function causes either expiration or inspiration depending on which neurons in the group are stimulated. Already we mentioned that ventral respiratory group may, especially they cause expiration, but they can initiate also inspiration also. That is causes either expiration or inspiration depending on which neurons in the group are stimulated. That is ventral respiratory group in the figure. See here, ventral respiratory group causes expiration and inspiration. That is, they can initiate two things, either inspiration or expiration depending on which neurons in the group are stimulated. Now, almost totally inactive. This ventral respiratory group of neuron almost totally inactive during normal quiet respiration. Almost totally inactive. This ventral group of neuron almost totally inactive during normal quiet respiration. These neurons are stimulated and contribute to both forceful inspiration and forceful expiration. That is for forceful inspiration and forceful expiration, this ventral group of neurons is very much essential for us. But for normal inspiration and expiration, dorsal group of neuron is dorsal group of neuron can control this inspiration. That is, after inspiration, expiration is passive process. It can occur passively, but that's why ventral respiratory group of neuron almost totally inactive during normal quiet respiration. That is normal quiet inspiration and expiration, no need to take participation of ventral respiratory group of neuron. These neurons are stimulated and contribute to both forceful inspiration and forceful expiration. That is ventral group of neuron very much essential for forceful inspiration and forceful expiration according to textbook guidance. So this is very important MCQ question. Which neurons are stimulated and contribute to both forceful inspiration and forceful expiration? That is ventral group of neuron. Now third one, pneumotaxic center. Pneumotaxic center location, upper part of the pons, nucleus parabrachialis, function. First thing, pneumotaxic center, this is very common, popular Viva question. Tell me the function of pneumotaxic center. First function, it controls the rate and pattern of breathing. It limits inspiration. Number 3, it may play a role in switching between inspiration and expiration. Examiner like to hear this sentence, very important thing. This pneumotaxic center may play role in switching between inspiration and expiration, increase rate of breathing. So very important things, it may play role in switching between inspiration and expiration, just like switch. If we want, we can just like a switch of fan. Think about switch of fan. If you want to put the switch on, the fan will and then round, okay, like this it will give wind to you. But if you want to off, if you feel cold, you want to off the switch, you can easily off the switch. Like this way, pneumatic center act like, play like switching between inspiration and expiration. If your body needs more inspiration, it will switch on the pneumatic center will be on and acting. But if you need expiration, the time pneumatic center off the inspiratory center, like this way. If we need inspiration, it will off the expiratory center. If we need expiration, it will off the inspiratory center. That is, it may play a role in switching between inspiration and expiration. It acts like switchboard, okay? It increases the rate of breathing. So function of pneumatic center, this is very much popular Viva question for examiners. They may ask you what are the functions of pneumatic center. First, you have to tell it controls the rate and pattern of breathing. Number 2, it limits inspiration. Number 3, it may play a role in switching between inspiration and expiration, increases rate of breathing. First 3 functions very important. The first 3 functions very important. See here, number 2, it limits inspiration. That is, these pneumatic prevents overinflation of lung. That is, if your lung overinflated, that is, more gas enters in your lung, it will create problem for you. But it limits the inspiration, how much air enters should be entered in your lungs, how much air needed your body. It will make this switching between inspiration and expiration, and it limits your inspiration. That is, how much air need to enter into alveoli or into the lungs. It will limit this thing. So it prevents overinflation of lung. লাংটা যেন বেশি ফুলে না যায়, ঠিক আছে? লাং যদি বেশি ফুলে যায়, অ্যালভুলাই যদি বেশি ফুলে যায়, কি হয়ে যাবে? বার্স্ট হয়ে যাবে। বেলুন যদি তুমি বেশি গ্যাস দাও, বেশি ফুলে যায়, বেলুন কি হয়? বার্স্ট হয়ে যেতে পারে না? ঠিক লাইক দিস ওয়ে, আমরা যদি বেশি অ্যালভুলাইগুলিকে বেশি গ্যাস ঢুকে যায়, তাহলে কি হবে? অ্যালভুলাই রাপচার হয়ে যেতে পারে। এই জন্য ইট লিমিটস ইন্সপিরেশন। দিস ইজ ভেরি ভেরি ইম্পর্টেন্ট ফাংশনস অফ pneumatic center। তাহলে এটা কি করে? রেট এবং প্যাটার্ন অফ ব্রিদিংটাকে কন্ট্রোল করে। ইট লিমিটস inspiration, how much air should be enter into your alveoli. It limits the inspiration, এবং তারা কি করে? Switching between inspiration and expiration. These 3 functions are very important function, okay? Now, number 4, for written exam, though there is a query mark in front of apneustic center, that is still now function of this center is not clear. That's why there is query mark. But if for written exam, you have to write down this thing, location. See here, apneustic center location, it is suspected to be present in the lower part of the pons. That is not clear. Suspected, আমরা ধারণা করছি, it is suspected to be present in the lower part of the pons, but not sure. Function, it operates in association with the pneumatic center to control the intensity of inspiration. তাহলে এটা কার সাথে মিলে কাজ করে? That is, it operates in association with the pneumatic center. That is, it acts with the association with the pneumatic center to control the intensity velocity of inspiration. That is, inspiration টাকে এটা control করছে with the association of pneumatic center, and its location is still now suspected, and functions also not clear. That's why question mark present before apneustic center. But for written exam, you have to write down about apneustic center. Okay, this is for written exam. What define first, you have to write down definition of respiratory centers. Then you have to start from here, dorsal respiratory group of neuron, location, nucleus, function, then ventral respiratory group of neuron, pneumatic center, and apneustic center. Then you have to draw this figure from your textbook 42-1, organization of the respiratory center. This is very common written question. Please student, listen to me very carefully. This question, invariably this question came under Chittagong University, so you have to study this question very nicely. Okay, Tanjimul, can you tell me what is pulmonary ventilation? What is pulmonary ventilation? Tanjimul, please can you tell me what is pulmonary ventilation? Pulmonary ventilation কাকে বলে? Tanjimul, please tell me what is pulmonary ventilation? Just একটা সেন্টেন্সে বলো। আমি বলেছিলাম রেসপিরেশনের যে ডেফিনিশন সেটাই পালমোনারি ভেন্টিলেশন। ইসরাত, roll 12, please tell me what do you mean by pulmonary ventilation?
ম্যাম এটা হচ্ছে মানে ম্যাম লাং এবং অ্যাটমসফিয়ারের ভিতর মানে মাঝখানে ম্যাম বাতাস যে যায় এবং আসে, ইনফ্লো এবং আউটফ্লো অফ এয়ার বিটুইন হচ্ছে লাং এন্ড অ্যাটমসফিয়ার ইজ কল্ড হচ্ছে ম্যাম পালমোনারি ভেন্টিলেশন।
কি বলতেছি? intake of air from atmosphere to lungs and output of or removal of from lungs to the
লাং টু অ্যাটমসফিয়ার
this
ইজ
is
কল্ড
called
হচ্ছে
pulmonary.
পালমোনারি।
তাহলে যেটা রেসপিরেশনের ডেফিনিশন এটাই তো পালমোনারি ভেন্টিলেশন, ঠিক কি না? তাহলে এটা
জি ম্যাম।
বলতে পারছো তোমরা কিচ্ছু পড়াশোনা করছো না, সেটা কিন্তু ঠিক না। আমরা পরীক্ষা তোমরা করবে না, তাহলে পড়ানোর কি লাভ আছে নাকি কোনো কিছু? আচ্ছা, ওকে। Ripa Roy Falguni, please tell me what do you mean by alveolar ventilation? What do you mean by alveolar ventilation? এখানে একটু
Ma'am,
বলো।
it is the volume of air that enters into the respiratory zone per minute and participate in the gas exchange is called alveolar ventilation.
ভেরি গুড। তারা রেসপিরেটরি গ্যাসেস এক্সচেঞ্জে অংশগ্রহণ করে। অথবা আরেকটা ডেফিনিশন ফ্রম অ্যাকর্ডিং টু গাইটন বলেছে কি, দ্য নিউ এয়ার, তাই না? দ্য অ্যামাউন্ট অফ নিউ এয়ার রিচেস ইন দ্য রেসপিরেটরি জোন পার মিনিট ইজ কল্ড অ্যালভুলার ভেন্টিলেশন। ওকে, তুমি যেটা বলেছো সেটাও হয়েছে। এখন বলো তো অ্যালভুলার ভেন্টিলেশন পার মিনিটে কতটুকু? আমরা কিভাবে ক্যালকুলেশনটা করি? অ্যালভুলার ভেন্টিলেশন
Ma'am,
ইকুয়াল
per minute হচ্ছে 4.2 লিটার ম্যাম।
4.2 লিটার পার মিনিট। ভেরি গুড। কিভাবে বের করেছো? অ্যালভুলার ভেন্টিলেশন ইকুয়াল টু কার থেকে কাকে বিয়োগ দিয়েছো?
Tidal volume minus physiological dead space into ma'am frequency of respiration rate.
রেট। তাহলে টাইডাল ভলিউম হাউ মাচ? কতটুকু?
Ma'am 4.2 লিটার per minute.
টাইডাল ভলিউম কত? তুমি তো আমাকে বলছো অ্যালভুলার ভেন্টিলেশনের রেট পার মিনিট। টাইডাল ভলিউম কত? নরমাল টাইডাল ভলিউম প্রতিটা ব্রেথে
Ma'am
ইন্সপিরেশন
500 milliliter.
500 ml। এটা বলতে এত দ্বিধা কেন? তাহলে 500 ml মাইনাস ডেড স্পেস এয়ার হচ্ছে কত? 150 ml, ঠিক আছে? তাহলে ডেড
150 ml.
150 ml, তাহলে কত? 350 ml থাকে ইনটু 12 হচ্ছে রেসপিরেটরি রেট। তাহলে এটা গুণ করলে কত আসে? 4200 ml, দ্যাট ইজ 4.2 লিটার পার মিনিট।
Per minute.
হাউ টু ক্যালকুলেট অ্যালভুলার ভেন্টিলেশন। আচ্ছা, ঠিক আছে। এখন আমাকে বলো রোল 24, রোল 24 কে আছে? নাবা চৌধুরী নাই। জারিন তাসনিম, রোল 28 কে আছে? রোল 28, জারিন তাসনিম। রোল 34, মেহনাজ মুশতারি, রোল 34, মেহনাজ মুশতারি কি আছো? রোল 43, ফাতিমা, রোল 43, ফাতিমা।
Yes ma'am.
আচ্ছা ফাতিমা, ক্যান ইউ টেল মি দ্য অ্যামাউন্ট অফ পালমোনারি ভেন্টিলেশন? ভলিউমটা বলো তো পালমোনারি ভেন্টিলেশনের কতটুকু প্রতি মিনিটে আমরা পালমোনারি ভেন্টিলেশন হয়? নর্মাল পালমোনারি ভেন্টিলেশন, এই যে তুমি বললে ইনটেক অফ এয়ার এন্ড রিমুভাল অফ এয়ার, এই যে অ্যাটমসফিয়ার এবং লাংস এর মাঝে হয়, এটা কতটুকু প্রতি মিনিটে?
6 লিটার পার মিনিট।
6 লিটার পার মিনিট। কিভাবে ক্যালকুলেশন করেছো?
ম্যাম রেসপিরেটরি রেট ইনটু টাইডাল ভলিউম।
রেসপিরেটরি রেট ইনটু টাইডাল ভলিউম, তাহলে টাইডাল ভলিউম প্রতি ব্রেথে হচ্ছে 500 ml, আর
500 মিলি।
12, তাহলে 12 into 500 ml কত? 6000 ml, that is 6 liter per minute, 6 liter per minute. You have to memorize this thing, how to calculate pulmonary ventilation and alveolar ventilation. Please listen to me very carefully. This is very, very important. These questions are very important for your viva exam. Define pulmonary ventilation and its calculation. Define alveolar ventilation and its calculation. What do you mean by respiration? Okay. Who can tell me what are the types of processes of respiration? Who can tell me what are the types or processes of respiration? কয় ধরনের রেসপিরেশন আছে? Types or processes of respiration. একজন বলো দ্রুত। What are the types and processes of respiration?
External respiration and internal respiration.
কে বলছো? নাম বলো।
Ma'am 21 Samia.
Roll 21. Roll 21, Samia Chaudhuri. Okay. Thank you very much. External respiration and internal respiration. These are types or processes of respiration. Same answer. ঠিক আছে? আচ্ছা, তাহলে external respiration বলতে কি বুঝি? Externally যেটা হয়। কার কার মাঝে হবে বলো তো বুদ্ধি করে? External respiration টা কার মাঝে হবে?
Absorption of oxygen and removal of carbon dioxide from the body as a whole is called external respiration.
Very good. That is, it occurs at the lung level. Just বাতাস এনভায়রনমেন্ট থেকে কোথায় ঢুকছে? লাং এ ঢুকছে। আবার লাং থেকে বাতাসটা কোথায় চলে যাচ্ছে? অ্যাটমসফিয়ারে চলে যাচ্ছে, তাই না? এনভায়রনমেন্টে চলে যাচ্ছে। এই যে তোমার এক্সটার্নালি হচ্ছে জাস্ট উইদিন দ্য লাং লেভেল, সেটা হচ্ছে কি এক্সটার্নাল রেসপিরেশন। আর ইন্টারনাল রেসপিরেশন কাকে বলি?
Ma'am, utilization of oxygen and reproduction of carbon dioxide by cell, এটা হচ্ছে gaseous exchange between the cell.
সেল এন্ড দা ফ্লুইড, তাই না? ফ্লুইডের মাঝে যেটা হচ্ছে এক্সট্রা সেলুলার ফ্লুইড, এটা হচ্ছে তোমার ইন্টারনাল রেসপিরেশন। দ্যাট ইজ গ্যাসটা কোথায় চলে যাবে? বডির ইনসাইডে চলে যাবে। সেলুলার ইট টেক পার্ট ইন দ্য সেলুলার অক্সিডেশন, এন্ড আফটার অক্সিডেশন কি তৈরি হবে? ওয়াস্ট প্রোডাক্ট কার্বন ডাইঅক্সাইড, রিমুভাল অফ কার্বন ডাইঅক্সাইড, সেটাই হচ্ছে ইন্টারনাল রেসপিরেশন হুইচ অকার্স উইদিন দ্য সেল। তাহলে সেল এনভায়রনমেন্টে যেটা হচ্ছে সেটা হচ্ছে ইন্টারনাল respiration. Okay, very good. To roll 21, very good. Okay. আমি মাঝে মধ্যে কোয়েশ্চেন করব, কারণ না পারলে তো সমস্যা। আমরা যদি না লেখাপড়া করি তাহলে খুবই সমস্যা। Now, already we discussed about the 4 respiratory centers, that is dorsal respiratory group of neuron, ventral respiratory group of neuron, pneumatic center and apneustic center. Now, how the respiration be affected when mid and upper pons is destroyed? যদি mid এবং upper pons কোনো কারণে যদি destruction occurs in the mid and upper pons, that time what happens? See here, pneumatic center in the upper part of the pons limits inspiration and increases the rate of breathing. If this center, if there is mid and upper pons is destruction occur, that time which center is affected? Of course, pneumatic center, because location of pneumatic center in the upper part of the pons, and the function of pneumatic center mainly inspiration. It limits inspiration, it increases the rate of breathing, so it prevents overinflation of the lungs. Functions of one of the functions of pneumatic center, it limits inspiration, and another function, it increases the rate of breathing, so it prevents overinflation of lung. If this area is damaged, if this area pneumatic center, that is mid and upper pons is destruction if occurs, pneumatic center will be destroyed that time. If this area is damaged, respiration becomes slower and tidal volume become greater, greater, and when the vagi are also cut, that is vagus nerve also cut, there are prolonged inspiratory spasm that resemble breath holding. This is called apneusis. তাহলে দেখা যায় যে if any injury, a road traffic accident or any injury causes mid and upper pons, destruction of mid and upper pons, that time pneumatic center will be affected. Function of pneumatic center, we know that it limits inspiration, it increases rate of breathing, so it prevents overinflation of lungs. Already we discussed this thing. So whenever this area is damaged, respiration becomes that time slower. তাহলে রেসপিরেশনটা কি হয়ে যাবে? স্লোয়ার হয়ে যাবে। and tidal volume, normal tidal volume is 500 ml, but if pneumatic center is damaged, that time respiration becomes slower, more air enters within the lung alveoli, so tidal volume greater, and with that, whenever vagal nerve are also cut, there are prolonged inspiratory spasm that is resemble breath holding. তাহলে দেখা যায় যে মনে হবে পারসন কি হচ্ছে, শ্বাস আটকে গেছে, এরকম মনে হবে, breath holding. This is called apneusis. মনে হবে যেন সে inspiration, he or she cannot take inspiration. তাহলে inspiration নিতে পারছে না, এরকম মনে হবে যেন resemble breath holding, ব্রেথটাকে হোল্ড করে রেখেছে. This is called apneusis. Okay, this is one of the viva and written question. How the respiration be affected when mid and upper pons is destroyed? In this area, pneumatic center is located in this area, so respiration becomes slower, tidal volume becomes greater, and also if the vagus nerves are also cut, there are prolonged inspiratory spasm and it resembles like breath holding. This is called apneusis. See here, this is figure. This figure I have taken from internet. See, same thing, dorsal respiratory group of neuron, ventral respiratory group of neuron, pneumatic center, apneustic center, and there is another thing. See here, pre-Borginger complex. According to Ganong, there is another thing present, pre-Borginger complex. I will discuss with you what do you mean by pre-Borginger complex in producing spontaneous breathing. According to Ganong, 26th edition Ganong, they mentioned new things, pre-Borginger complex. See here, what is pre-Borginger complex? Rhythmic respiration is initiated by a small group of synaptically coupled pacemaker cells in the pre-Borginger complex on either side of the medulla between the nucleus ambiguous and the lateral reticular nucleus. See here location, bilaterally this sky blue color, this sky blue rounded portion is pre-Borginger complex. This bilaterally they present in the medulla. See here, this sky blue color, this is bilaterally present pre-Borginger complex. They situated on either side of the medulla between the nucleus ambiguous, see here nucleus ambiguous, and the lateral reticular nucleus, and the lateral, see here lateral reticular nucleus, in between two nucleus. First nucleus is nucleus ambiguous, and in the below the nucleus, the lateral reticular nucleus, in between nucleus ambiguous and lateral reticular nucleus, that is location bilaterally in the medulla, that is location of pre-Borginger complex. And according to Ganong, these pre-Borginger complexes are called pacemaker cells of respiratory system, which can generate rhythmical respiration. That is, rhythmic respiration is initiated by a small group of synaptically coupled pacemaker cells in the pre-Borginger complex on either side of the medulla between the nucleus ambiguous and lateral reticular nucleus. This is according to 26th edition Ganong. 26th edition Ganong. Okay, latest edition Ganong, they mentioned that pre-Borginger, there is one complex present in the medulla. This is called pre-Borginger complex. These are the pacemaker cells of the respiratory system, which can generate rhythmical respiration. But according to Guyton, your textbook, they mentioned as dorsal group of neuron, they can initiate rhythmical respiration. respiration according to your textbook guidance. But latest edition Ganong, they mentioned pre-Borginger complex. They are the pacemaker cells of the respiratory system, and they present on either side of the medulla between the nucleus ambiguous, see here nucleus ambiguous, and lateral reticular nucleus. Okay, lateral reticular nucleus. These cells are called pre-Borginger complex, and they are pacemaker tissue of the respiratory physiology, respiratory system. These two books that is differ. Your textbook Guyton and Ganong, they differ the pacemaker cells, name of the pacemaker cell. According to textbook, you have to remember this thing. Dorsal group of neuron, they are the pacemaker cells of the, according to your textbook, they can initiate rhythmical respiration. But according to Ganong, pre-Borginger complex, they are the pacemaker tissue of the respiratory system. They can generate rhythmical respiration, which is situated on either side of the medulla between the nucleus ambiguous and lateral reticular nucleus. You have to remember both things. দুইটা জিনিসই তোমাদের মনে রাখতে হবে, কোনটা যে দিবে কোনো ঠিক নাই, ঠিক আছে? পরীক্ষায় যে কোনো দুইটাই কিন্তু দিয়ে দিতে পারে, যে কোনো একটা তোমাদের দিতে পারে, তাহলে দুইটাই মনে রাখতে হবে। তাহলে এই this pre-Borginger complex, these neurons discharge rhythmically and they produce rhythmic discharges in phrenic motor neurons that are abolished by section between the pre-Borginger complex and this motor neuron. They also contact the hypoglossal nuclei of the tongue, which is involved in the regulation of airway resistance. So if the short note come like the write down the role of pre-Borginger complex in producing spontaneous breathing, or short note about pre-Borginger complex, you have to write down from Ganong, 26th edition Ganong. First you have to write down the definition, then function. These neurons discharge rhythmically and they produce rhythmic discharges in phrenic motor neurons that are abolished by section between the pre-Borginger complex and this motor neuron. তাহলে দেখো, if there is damage of the pre-Borginger complex, there is rhythmical rhythm of the respiration will be hampered that time. They also contact the this pre-Borginger complex can also contact the hypoglossal nuclei and that of the tongue, and is involved in the regulation of airway resistance. So about pre-Borginger complex, you have to write down this thing and you have to draw this figure. You have to draw this figure from Ganong, and you can also draw this figure. See here, here also it is mentioned pre-Borginger complex is mentioned. That is above the dorsal respiratory group of neuron, there is one complex present, pre-Borginger complex in the medulla above the dorsal respiratory group of neuron. Okay, according to textbook, dorsal respiratory group of neuron mentioned as they are the pacemaker cell of the respiratory system. They can generate rhythmical respiration, but according to Ganong, pre-Borginger complex mentioned as pacemaker tissue, they lies above the respiratory group of neuron. Okay, you can draw this figure for pre-Borginger complex, this figure and also this figure from Ganong, Okay, that's all from me today. Next class, of course, I will ask you question about this respiratory centers. Please, everybody have to study this item. Initial portion of this item, introductory portion of this item, you have to study, everybody. Next class, of course, I will ask you question. Okay, that's all from me today. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much.
আসসালামু আলাইকুম।
Assalamu alaikum, ma'am.
Walaikum assalam.